Today, we are getting into one of the most talked about and, honestly, one of the most controversial topics in the race to net zero: hydrogen. Is it the clean fuel that's finally going to save the day, or is this a massive multi-trillion-dollar gamble? Let's get into it. So look, we're all seeing electric cars on the road, and that's great. It's a huge step forward. But here's the thing that keeps climate scientists and engineers up at night. Batteries can't do everything. What about the stuff that needs serious power? We're talking about our massive container ships, our airplanes, our steel factories. You can't just slap a giant battery on those. And that is the exact question that pushes hydrogen right to the center of the stage. All right, so to really understand why hydrogen is suddenly such a huge deal, we first have to talk about the problem it's supposed to solve, and that is the decarbonization dilemma. You know, not all carbon emissions are the same. Some things are, relatively speaking, the easy part. Switching our cars and our homes over to electricity, we have a pretty clear path for that. But then you've got the heavy hitters, what experts call the hard-to-decarbonize sectors. Think long-haul trucking, global shipping, aviation, and heavy industry like making steel. These things require an insane amount of energy, way more punch than today's batteries can deliver. So you might be thinking, hydrogen isn't a new idea. It's been around for decades. So why now? Why is everyone all of a sudden talking about hydrogen like it's the next big thing? What exactly changed? Well, here's the most important thing to get right. We're not talking about just any hydrogen. The whole conversation is about clean hydrogen. This is absolutely critical because the climate benefit of hydrogen depends 100% on how you make it. If you're just burning fossil fuels to create it, well, you haven't really solved anything, have you? And that brings us to the famous colors. You've probably heard of these. The two main types of clean hydrogen on the table right now are green and blue. Green hydrogen, that's the dream. That's where you use renewable electricity from wind and solar to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. No emissions. Blue hydrogen is kind of the stepping stone. It's made from natural gas, but, and this is the crucial part, the carbon emissions from that process are captured and stored underground. Now, this big push for hydrogen didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's really the result of decades of political will building up over time. You can trace it back to these huge international moments, from the Rio Earth Summit way back in '92 to the landmark Paris Accords in 2015, and more recently, the Glasgow breakthroughs in 2021. All of these built the foundation that's making governments feel confident enough to bet big on hydrogen. Okay, so we know why there's all this momentum, but let's get practical. Where can hydrogen actually win? Where is it most likely to make a real difference? Let's look at the key battlegrounds. And this chart, this shows a really dramatic shift. Back in 2020, hydrogen was basically just an industrial ingredient, used for stuff like refining oil. But look at the projection for 2050. The demand is expected to explode in completely new areas, especially in transport and generating power. We're talking about it going from being a niche chemical to a major mainstream energy source. But here's a twist that might actually surprise you. Moving pure hydrogen around is really, really hard. It's a tiny molecule that likes to escape, and keeping it liquid requires super cold temperatures. So for shipping it around the world, the plan is often to turn it into something else first. And the research shows that ammonia is shaping up to be the leading hydrogen carrier. The idea is you make green hydrogen, use it to make green ammonia, ship the ammonia, and then either use the ammonia as fuel or turn it back into hydrogen at its destination. Pretty clever, right? Now, this all sounds really promising, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. The road ahead is filled with massive challenges. So let's talk about the big one, the trillion-dollar challenge. Just take a second and look at that number. $4 trillion. That is the estimated global investment needed by 2050. And that's just for the production and the infrastructure. It's a truly mind-boggling figure. It shows you that we're not just trying to launch a new gadget. We are talking about building an entirely new global energy system from the ground up. But while that total price tag is enormous, there is a huge silver lining. The actual cost to make 1 kilogram of green hydrogen is expected to fall off a cliff. Thanks to cheaper solar and wind power, new innovations, and just building things at a massive scale, the projections show that costs dropping dramatically over the next couple of decades. So what's the magic number? What's the target everyone is aiming for? It's this: $1 per kilogram. This isn't just a random number. It's the official goal of the U.S. Hydrogen Earthshot program, and it's seen by experts all over the world as the tipping point, the price that makes clean hydrogen truly competitive with fossil fuels. Hit that number and everything changes. Getting to that $1 goal, though, means we have to knock down some major barriers. First, the cost of electrolyzers, those are the machines that make green hydrogen, they have to get a lot cheaper. Then we need a colossal build-out of new infrastructure, pipelines, storage tanks, shipping terminals. And of course, you need public buy-in and a whole new set of international rules for how to trade this stuff. It's a long to-do list.
Okay, so we've weighed the incredible potential against some pretty massive challenges. So where does that leave us? What's the big picture here? Let's try to put it all together.
It really boils down to a clear set of pros and cons. On the one hand, hydrogen's strengths are powerful. It's a zero-carbon fuel right where you use it. It's one of the only ways to decarbonize heavy industry. And you can store it for long periods, which is great for energy security. But on the other hand, the weaknesses are just as real. That huge infrastructure investment. The fact that making it cleanly is still expensive today. And a tricky bit of physics. You lose energy every time you convert it or move it around. And that leads us to the most important takeaway of all. Hydrogen is not a silver bullet. It is not going to solve every single one of our energy problems. It's probably not going to power your next car. Batteries are just better for that. Instead, you should think of it as a specialized, absolutely vital tool. It's like a scalpel for tackling the very hardest, toughest parts of the climate puzzle. All those sectors that electrification just can't reach on its own. And the silver reality of it all is captured perfectly in this assessment. The magnitude of the tasks which remain is large, the time over which continued progress needs to be sustained is long, and the time to 2050 is quite short. In other words, we have a mountain to climb and we don't have a lot of time to do it. So that leaves us with the ultimate trillion-dollar question. The tech is there, the political will seems to be finally showing up, the investment is starting to flow. But with everything that's on the line and that 2050 clock ticking ever louder, can the world actually build a global hydrogen economy fast enough to make a difference? That is the gamble. Thanks for joining The Explainer.